Hello everyone. Welcome to the very first episode of the She Plus Tech Table podcast. This is so amazing. I have an amazing guest with me today. And as you all know, the She Plus Tech Table podcast is a platform to spotlight women who are breaking barriers, who are shaping technology, who are inspiring the next generation of innovators. And each monthly episode will feature women or allies who are making strides in their industries. They're creating impacts in their communities, inspiring change in the world. And I have one of such women today. She's just amazing. Her name is Kartavi Shah. And she's the managing director of NextGen Founders Lab. NextGen Founders Lab is a venture studio empowering high school students to launch real startups from scratch. So she's also the Alberta lead for the South Asian Venture Capital Association of Canada, which connects South Asian founders and investors across the country. She has a lot of venture capital experience through the UC Haskins Student Fund. She holds a chemical engineering degree from UC Riverside and an MBA from the University of Calgary. Go Calgary! Also been featured in the university's class of 2025 Student Spotlight. She's judged a lot of pitch competitions, taught startups, and she's just committed to building Canada's next generation of entrepreneurs and strengthening its innovative ecosystem. So please join me in welcoming my guest today, Tavi Shah. Yay!
Yay. Thank you so much for having me, and especially for your first episode. No pressure on my end to raise the bar, but thank you so
No,
much for
that's
having
no
me.
pressure. No, we're going to do just amazing. So, you're going from chemical engineering all the way to the startup system. How did that trajectory happen? How did you get here?
Yeah, that is a great question. I get this asked a lot, and I want to say that it was semi-intentional, but semi-unintentional as well. I graduated during the pandemic in 2020. So my undergrad, as you mentioned, was in the States. I moved back to Canada, and obviously there was a global hiring freeze. And I was like, okay, well, while I'm waiting for the world to go back to normal, what can I do? And what am I good at? And how do I so-called make a career out of that? So that's where I stumbled upon entrepreneurship, and I started my own small business that was more focused on services. It was a service-based business, and I kind of got the hang of it eventually after failing and learning, because in engineering we actually don't learn any sort of business because it's more technical. So I was learning a lot by doing, which I think is the best way to learn. And then through that, I actually decided to apply to the MBA because I really enjoyed this ecosystem, being more creative. And you're also using a lot of engineering. Engineering is a lot of problem solving, and so is entrepreneurship. So yeah, when I actually got into the MBA, I thankfully got into a program called the UC Haskins Student Fund, which is a student venture capital that gave me a lot of hands-on experience in the investor seat of how do we evaluate startups? How do we invest in startups? What is the whole process like? And of course, I had that experience as a founder as well. So it was kind of seeing two different sides of the coin of seeing like what investors want, what their struggles are, and what founders want, what our struggles are. That was a really good insight. And that's kind of how I actually entered this venture ecosystem, because I was super passionate about it. And thankfully, the university and the UHSF program gave me so many connections and so many insights and opportunities to learn more than most people do.
Well, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I know that most of the trajectory for women in tech or in the sciences is not usually linear. So it's a
Yeah.
good thing that we're seeing somebody coming from chemical engineering and going into the space where you're now speaking with innovators and trying to lead
Yeah.
them to the direction that they need to take. And part of your introduction, we mentioned that you are the lead for the South Asian Venture Capital Association of Canada, but even more importantly, you're the managing director of NextGen Founders Lab.
Mhm.
Give us a little bit of information about what that's about. What's the NextGen Founders Lab exactly?
Yeah. So NextGen started this summer, summer of 2025, and it was actually an ideation quite a few months before that. And basically, we wanted the youth to be more involved in this venture ecosystem. And the way that Canada is going, and I can speak more about Alberta. This is where I'm based in. Alberta's venture ecosystem is growing so fast, and there's so much interest, and there's so many resources that is available. And we really wanted the youth to also be involved. Like from SAFCA, as you mentioned, the South Asian VC, SAFCA for sure. I get a lot of opportunities to talk to people outside of Canada, and they have expressed so much interest in partnering up with Canadian talent, with Canadian resources, Canadian innovation. And it only made sense for us to involve the youth into this conversation because they are going to university in the next few years. They're going to be an adult. in our workforce in a few years. So how do we give them the skills to stand out and already be ahead of the curve? Because how fast Canada's ecosystem is growing in innovation and technology and entrepreneurship, it's better for them to start early and get all of these skills early. So now they can use the resources that university has more effectively. Like University of Calgary, for example, is one of the most entrepreneurial university in Canada, if I'm not wrong. And they have so many resources. Hunter Hub is an amazing resource. So why do we wait until students are in university to even explore if that's an option when they can start early? And starting early also gives them so many benefits. They learn leadership skills, at
Mm.
least a decade earlier than before going into the corporate world. They learn how to make decisions. They learn how to be resilient, which is so hard to learn because you're failing so much. But failure is a good thing because it's honestly part of the process. And that's something I also want to normalize when our cohort starts, is that the failure should not be tied to your self-worth or your self-doubt, because it's actually part of the process. And one of the main reasons that we also start NextGen specifically with high school students is because at that age, they can start thinking more critically and they can think more in a complex way, which is good for entrepreneurship. They're also at the age where they don't have mortgages and they don't have car payments and they don't have kids. So they can take those risks compared to, someone who might be 40 or 50 when they do have some responsibilities that might make them think twice before taking a big risk.
Well, I mean, you just mentioned now about mortgages and everything that
Yeah.
comes with being an adult.
Yeah.
How do you manage challenges with things like limited resources or technical gaps or self-doubt? And these high school students already have a workload with, the
School.
curriculum that they have to go through in school as well. So
Yeah.
how is that? How do you help them overcome these barriers and to build the resilience that you just spoke about?
I I want to start off, like, again, my cohort hasn't started, but this is what I do want to, like, on day one, tell them that limited resources is for everyone. Whether you are, a big company or a small company, you have to learn how to work with limited resources, and that is totally okay. But how do you leverage what you have? And we will do our best to provide them with all the resources that we can. We give them mentors, we give them industry experience. Are also hosting this at University of Calgary, like the Hunter Hub, so they're able to provide more resources there as well. So we will provide everything that we can from our side to make sure that they are successful. But it's also to highlight that everyone has limited resources. So let's learn how to be resourceful and work best with that. And you also mentioned something about self-doubt, which I also want to normalize failure, which I mentioned a while ago, that it is part of the process. And that should not be the reason why, you think that you're not doing well or you're not capable of it, because you are, and it's part of the process. You need to learn. And something that we're doing is following the build, measure, learn loop, which basically is iterations, where you build something in a smaller scale. You measure it, which is get validation either from your customer, your peers, and take that feedback and then revamp whatever you're making, like an MVP or a prototype. That helps them fail faster or iterate faster, which is good. When you're iterating faster, you're also avoiding big failures. At the end, you're like understanding it in smaller doses, which is good. So those are the two things I want to highlight, like being more resourceful and not tying your self-worth to, struggles that you face, because everyone faces that. And I think that needs to be normalized, not only with the kids, but also in the adult world, because it should not be something that we hide. Like social media obviously highlights all the positives, like everyone's promotions, everyone's vacations, but like there's so much, probably a lot of struggles that go behind the scene. It's also important to normalize that too.
Well, I like that about the program because not a lot of people concentrate on this aspect of building. Because building anything from scratch, whether is part of your program or even at later stages of life, as you mentioned, it takes
Yeah.
a lot of resilience. So
Yeah.
I like that they have to start to learn to build this resilience. And it's going to also go over to whatever they're doing outside of the program as well. So that's very good. Kudos to you.
Thank you.
I know that you're building towards innovation in Canada, and Canada has invested heavily in innovation and digital skills programs like CanCode and initiatives by the Canadian Innovation Corporation. So,
Mhm.
how does NextGen Founders Lab contribute to shaping Canada's long-term innovation economy? How does this feed into that?
Yeah, this, like, when we started NextGen, our goal was to create leaders of tomorrow and give
Mm.
them the resources that they need to, learn the skills that they need to before they actually enter the industry. And I think that's our part in playing that role. A lot of organizations, even in Alberta, are doing amazing jobs helping um, adults, commercialize their idea or, working with universities to commercialize the technology that they built. But I think it's also important for us to build our talent pipeline early on. So that's where NextGen comes in. Like, of course, we're helping the students. Our goal is always to make sure the students are doing well. But on a bigger scale, how are the students? What are their roles in the Canadian economy? And which is, they're coming in with a lot more experience so early on, and they're able to contribute more at such a young age. So that's where at least I see NextGen playing a role at creating future
Fantastic.
leaders. Yeah.
I mean, I know that you have a background in product management, right?
Yes.
Product
Yeah.
management, and you also are advising early stage startups. And
Yeah.
this gives you an insight into scaling ventures. So, what operational or strategic lessons from your professional work do you see as most relevant to the student's startup journey in your own experience?
From everything, I can confidently say it is always focusing on your end users. When we are working with new features or about to deploy new features, we're always doing the user story, which is always keeping the users in mind. Like, how are they going to use this product or how are they going to use this feature? And when we do our testing, what the new feature that we deployed is always from the lens of the users. And it's the same thing. Like, I actually just gave like a presentation at the Hunter Hub yesterday for the Hunter Hub students about customer discovery. And my entire point was that you need to know your customers and you need to focus on your customers because you don't have a business if you have no one buying it, whether
Mm,
that be a product or a service. The biggest lesson is like focus on your customers, focus on your end users. And that actually makes the process so much easier because now you're not making something for yourself. It's actually for the masses or whoever your customers are. And I think that's very important for any company to succeed. That is also one of the main reasons why companies fail as well, that there's no market need. And that's because the right customers or the right users are not there. So yeah, that would be my main point. To focus on your users, focus on your end users and your customers. It's honestly the fundamentals of the business.
I mean, that's great advice because that's the same thing that also a lot of startups that are established or are in the first 5 years. We know that the first 5 years are the most important when it comes to any
Yes.
startup. It's not just building an MVP, right? You have to make
Yeah.
sure that you have buying customers.
Yeah.
So that's when you can build traction and attract investors. So it makes a lot of sense that this is part of what you're going to be imparting into the students. And it is
Yeah.
really, really a good aspect of the program. So what advice would you give? So with your work in promoting diversity and inclusion in the startup ecosystem, what advice would you give to educators, parents, or even young
Yeah.
founders about creating opportunities for underrepresented youth in tech and entrepreneurship, and especially women?
Yeah. So there's like multiple sides to this question. I'll say, like, first, for parents and educators, I want them to know that entrepreneurship is not really a hobby anymore. It's not an extracurricular. It should be treated very seriously as we treat like tutoring and we treat math and science because it all kind of plays together. I'm not saying one is more important than the other. They all play together, and parents should encourage kids to think outside the box. And that's where the creativity and the leadership skills and all the other skills, communication skills comes to play when they learn entrepreneurship. So I want the parents and educators to encourage students to even explore this as an option, whether they be interested or not. Just even showing that this is an option that you can take is going to play a big role in how we shape our future leaders and how we shape Canada and the world. And as for students, and especially for women, I want to say, don't self reject. We tend to do this a lot where we think we're not qualified or we're not an expert at something. So I'm not going to apply to this. So I'm not going to take the next step. And I think that puts us quite behind people who are just able to or just willing to take the risk and learn on spot. And I think that is a skill that I learned a bit late in life where I'm like, if I'm not ready, then I would have not gotten the opportunity anyway. So if
Mm,
I'm getting the opportunity, I am somewhat qualified. And
yes.
obviously, yeah, and I don't need to be an expert to be a beginner. You're a beginner for a reason, right? Like, you become an expert by trying and working on skills and learning new things and trying new experiences. So for the youth and especially for women of any age, I want to say, like, really don't self reject. If you were not meant or if you were not qualified, you would not gotten the opportunity. And that's something that I always repeat to myself when I'm like, hey, if I wasn't good enough, this person wouldn't have reached out to me. And if they are, I should also trust myself. I should believe in myself more than other people believe in me. And I think that over the last few years, that has helped me quite a lot in starting new things, starting new things and just kind of stepping out of my comfort zone. And I've obviously done, at least in my perspective, done quite well in with the resources that I've had. And I encourage everyone to kind of do the same.
I really like that because it's a very pertinent message. If I don't know when people will be watching this, but we're
Yeah.
recording this the day that is Mental Health Day.
Oh,
And
nice.
yes, this is a message that women need to understand, right? You talked about self-rejection. It's also imposter syndrome and all of the things that hold us back from really going for things that we're really qualified for, but we always second guess ourselves. We always ask those questions to see if we're good enough. But the truth is we are good enough. So that's good
Yeah.
advice you're giving. So just to close off before I ask you, I have some rapid fire questions that I'm going to be
Lovely.
asking.
I'm
But
ready.
before I do so, like, what's the process? I know that the cohort is full for this particular one that you're going to be doing shortly, but for the future, for those who are interested, parents or young people want to be part of the program, what do they need to know? How do they need to sign up? How does this go?
Yeah. So our applications are obviously closed for this, year until June. We'll open it back up again in June. So we'll have a summer boot camp as well, and then we'll have another whole 9 month session starting in the fall. The best way to reach me would probably be through LinkedIn or my email. I check both quite frequently, all the time. And I'm more than happy to hop on a call with them. But the process usually when we do have the application open is the students fill out the form, we do a short interview, and then I take that back to my team and we see if there is a fit or not, and then we accept them. We keep our cohorts really small for a good reason because we want to give them personalized support and we want them not to feel like they're not getting that one-on-one time with either me or with the mentors. So yeah, it's a bit competitive. I think for this year, our acceptance rate was 33%. So it was
Oh,
a bit competitive, and I think that's exactly how we want it because we want people to, um, as you said, like people are busy, and that's totally okay if you have priorities. Like school is always first, but we all want to make sure that students are able to contribute time outside of the sessions as well because it is nearly impossible to build a company with 3 hours a week. It's just
definitely.
not possible, right? So yeah, but the process is usually fill out the application, we'll do a short interview, and then you get your decisions. As I said, the best way to reach
Yeah,
me is
you're
LinkedIn.
looking for in a candidate. What would be what you're looking for?
Yeah. So I want to start by saying that they don't need to have any business background. They don't need prior experience. We don't expect that. They're very young and we want them to come with just a curious mind. So the main thing we're looking for is people who are dedicated, curious, they're willing to put in time, as I mentioned, because you need more than 3 hours a week to build a company. And yeah, we just want them to be passionate. And I think that's something that they will learn as long as they have interest and they're dedicated to building whatever they want to build. We're here to help. But again, we cannot promise you anything if you're not willing to put in the work. We can give you the resources. We can't build the company for you. So those are
Yeah.
some things that we look for. And it's a bit broad, but that's totally okay with some of the criteria that I mentioned. But it all comes down to are they willing to put in the time? Are they curious? And are they excited? I think that's always fun when kids come with questions and they come with, a lot of opinions. So like it's really good, and that's how conversations start, and that's how we make progress. So yeah,
And this is sector agnostic, right? So it doesn't have to be, as you said, they don't have a business background, but then it can be any business in any field. It doesn't matter if it's tech related or business,
exactly.
long
Yeah,
as it's in any sector of the
yeah.
economy. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's
We
good.
say as long as it's doable, right? We don't want them to create research projects that are theoretical or they need, partnerships with like NASA for it to even work. Like that's
Mhm.
not where we come in. That might be some other organizations, maybe universities can help with that. We are
Yeah.
focused on companies that they can achieve and they can build. And yeah, it can be sector agnostic. I know some students that we have, they want to build service based companies, and some people want to make tech based companies. As long as it's something that's doable, we'll
Mhm.
help you we'll pair you up with the right mentor because we pair the mentors up with their backgrounds. If the student is building a tech company, we'll pair them up with a mentor that has worked in tech or has the tech background, can help them not only advise them, but guide them to the right direction. But yeah, it's sector agnostic.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I really learned a lot about everything that you're doing, and I hope that the audience has learned a lot about what you're doing as well. And as she said, you can always reach out to her on LinkedIn to know a lot more about NextGen Founders Lab and how they're impacting the next generation of innovators. So now this is the good part. We're going to do some rapid fire questions.
Okay, I'm
This is just
ready.
this is just for part to know who you are outside of doing Next Gen Founders Lab. So rapid fire, ding, ding, ding. One startup tool or app you can't work without.
Canva. I do a lot of designing.
Oh, Canva is the best. Canva is
Oh
the
my God. My website for NextGen is on Canva. It's so easy. I love it. Yeah, it's lovely.
Canva saves everybody,
I
honestly.
know.
Design tool. Second one is the most surprising or innovative idea you've seen a student pitch at NextGen.
We have not started, so I don't have an answer to that, but I will in around 9 months.
We'll come back for that.
We'll come back to this. Yes, we'll do a part two.
Sure, please, anytime. The third is coffee or tea when diving into strategy or mentorship.
Tea. It'll
Tea.
be tea. Yes, I don't drink caffeine, so it's tea.
And then one word that describes the future of Canadian innovation.
Thriving?
What's one word that describes the future of Canadian innovation?
Thriving. I would say
Right.
thriving. Yeah.
I see. And then if you could give your younger self one piece of advice about entrepreneurship or venture capital, what would it be?
Fail fast, iterate faster.
That's very good advice. And last one, favorite way to unwind after a long day working with startups and students.
Honestly, just treating myself to a sweet treat. It's probably the best way. I would think that's the best way.
That's a good one. I'm sure there are a lot of nice shops
Oh my God.
in Calgary that are selling a lot of the sweet treats.
I know.
Well, all the way from Toronto, I want to wish you good luck with NextGen Founders Lab.
Thank you.
Hoping that it's a very successful cohort. I want to thank you as well for being our guest today and for just being amazing, answering all our questions. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, we're going to put your information out there
Okay.
so that they can always reach out to you as well. Thank you so much, Katavi. We really appreciate it. Thank
And
you for putting up a chair at the She Plus Tech Table podcast. And we can't wait to have you come back and tell us exactly how the cohort went. Thank you so
absolutely.
much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me and being your first guest. I hope this podcast takes off. And I know you're doing a lot of impactful work and inspiring so many other women. And, I'm always happy to help and, support where I can. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, well, you guys have heard it. Everybody have a lovely day. You can always watch this podcast on all our streaming platforms, on Spotify, on YouTube. You can see the link on LinkedIn, on and all our social channels as well. Until next time, when I bring the next amazing woman who is going to be telling us about all the wonderful work that she's doing, we'll see you next time. Ciao.